Today I am going to present my presentation under the CBSE in-house teachers training which is conducted by Sahodia School Complex, Punjab. I am present here with my topic strategies of teaching English. So as being subject teachers of every subject, we all are masters of all our respective subjects. I am also present here with some of the strategies that I use in my classes among my students. I will also share those things with my colleagues. First of all, I have made a long chart of some strategies, and one by one I will explain them to you people. And I must tell you that how I also use these things in my class, and sometimes I get fruitful results also from those strategies. The first strategy present here people, that is active learning process, in which we engage our students themselves. We tell them to act themselves, like they act themselves, they participate in activities, communication, teaching and learning, and this process gives them the opportunity of engaging themselves in building their self-efficacy or confidence. They learn the things better, they understand the things in a better way. The next point is passive learning. Passive learning involves the very age-old traditional method of the process that the teacher engages them. That is called the teaching, the learning, the reading, giving them materials to understand, and then the process of giving instruction to absorb the information. So this is the very age-old process, traditional process of learning, passive learning. Generally, students go through this learning process. Here are some of the advantages and disadvantages of active and passive learning given here people. Some of the pictures are also given. You can go through these pictures, and as we think that this process is good or that process is bad or that process is good, this is bad, actually every processes have some advantages and disadvantages. Like, I will only give you one example, the disadvantage of active learning, as we think that active learning gives the students more spaces to know themselves in a good way, in a better way. But at the same time, active learning sometimes become very hard, very stressful for the teachers, because they get very less time to elaborate or to evaluate the students. Similarly, passive learning. There is an advantage of passive learning. There are so many given. One advantage I must tell you people, the disadvantage of passive learning, that there is a stress. You can see the second picture how the student is looking so stressful, because the stress is on her that whatever topic is given by the teacher to the student, she would understand that topic or not. In group study also, students in passive learning, some of the groups in our classes, you all must have faced, you all must have noticed that they fear. They get scared of asking questions, or if you ask questions to them, if you even ask them that if they have understood or not, they said yes, they have understood. In fear of that if you ask any question to them. So these are the disadvantages of active learning and passive learning also. Otherwise, there are so many advantages also. This is a chart I have given. Later on, when I will go through my PPT, I will explain all these processes one by one. But you see people that the first four are lecture, reading, audio, visual demonstrations. These things are coming under passive learning. And we can see that the students are learning less with passive learning. And the next 3 points coming under active learning, and students are learning more from active learning, like teach others, students learn 90%. Practice doing, they learn 75%, and discussions, they learn 50%, and this way the ratio is going lesser. Okay, so this way one by one I will explain everything in my later on PPT. This way, lecture process. This is also a process which involves when the teacher typically go through the chapter delivering in a speech way. So that is why it is said that lecture process is not so probable in schools. They are mainly used in college students. They are mainly used for college students. But unlike some universities where lecture process is also so communicable, interactive, where students also participate in interaction with the teacher, but in school life, in schools, we have seen that lecture process is not so probable. It is not so fruitful in school life. Reading. Reading is the very basic process of teaching and learning, where when we use this term reading, we remember that this is the act that we do, that we go through some sentences, written symbols. When we read, we allow our eyes to go through those written symbols, and under those written symbols come those punctuation marks, those letters, and some spaces. So when we read, we allow our eyes to go through these written symbols of letters and punctuation marks and spaces, and we allow our brain to make, using those letters and punctuation marks and spaces, use them into words, into sentences, and then into paragraphs. So the reading is a very good process, is a basic process, and we must allow our students, whenever we go to classes, we must allow our students to go through reading, because this is the process which gives them something to communicate with. Audiovisuals. Who can deny the use of this very important tool, we can say? During the pandemic, we have seen the fruitful use of this tool, audiovisual. This is a tool where we use both, either image or sound, or sometimes both. We use both the tools. And we have seen that during the pandemic time, how this audio-visual tool became very fruitful to gather our students and to impart with their education. And some of the examples of this audio-visual tool we have seen, that film strips, that PowerPoint presentation, live or pre-recorded radio, television programs, etc. So by this strategy also, we can engage our students very well. Demonstration. Demonstration, you can see in this process, demonstration is a word which, this is the act of the teacher, that the teacher use something, use a process, go through a process by which the teacher tries to give a knowledge of something which is definite. Okay? So while demonstrating, while using this demonstration strategy to the student, the teacher must be very skillful in demonstrating, in using his language and showing his skill. Because once you demonstrate the things to the student, you must be very skillful and very particular with your words, with your language. Because once it is working like a mental process. Once you choose a wrong word or a wrong process, the student would understand the same thing, and it would be very problematic for the student later on in his life. So that is why in this picture we can see how the teacher is showing the lens, and another hand she is having the pot, and how the children are also following the teacher the same way. So the way the teacher is portraying the things, the children are also following the teacher, and in the end the children are also doing the same thing the teacher is trying to tell them. So this is the process of demonstration, and it must be it is very helpful for the student to make them understand the better things, the accurate things. Discussions. In our classes, time to time, you all subject teachers must engage your students with discussions. And discussions is the forum, it is the place where we leave our students, we give our students an open-ended area where they share they exchange their ideas, their viewpoints, their strategies, their openness with each other. So discussion is a process, is a strategy, is a teaching strategy with which we can engage our students to express their data, and this is a process which can take place among students also and between teacher and students also. So this is also a very fruitful strategy. If we use this strategy teaching English or any other subject, it must be a very fruitful way of teaching the students. Practice doing. Of course, this is one of the finest way a student learns things in a better way. When one tries to practice and learn something, that learning lasts long. So this is considered as one of the finest way of teaching our students. Doing, giving them opportunities to do yourself and learn. So this is the way when we give our students the opportunity to do yourself and learn. This is the best way for the students as they learn things in a very better way. When they do something, as here written the age-old phrase that practice makes perfect. And few days back, one of our students delivered a speech. The slogan changed a little people. As we all must have appreciated that slogan, he said, the boy named Shubham, he said that perfect practice makes perfect. Okay, so really these days it is the need of the hour that practice, but that practice must be very perfect. So once the students learn doing things perfectly, they would learn the things perfectly. Teach others. Teaching others is the strategy when we leave the students with this quality. So this generally it is seen that when small children teach the same children of their same age group, so this develops in them a kind of efficacy, a kind of self-confidence, and that self-efficacy can be seen when they teach the students of their same age. Few days back, Murari Prasad sir sent some pictures in the group, school group, and there we saw that students, means how those students, they taught their friends and their number increased. So that kind of a process, the teaching other process, this develops, this improves the self-efficacy in them, and they develop the kind of productivity in themselves. They develop this idea that they also know something to do. This develops in them the self-efficacy and self-confidence, teaching others. Narration. Though narration is a grammatical term of English language, but narration is a general process of communication when we communicate with each other. Narration is a process, we all know, if we go through grammatical term, we know that narration is having two kinds of speeches, direct and indirect. Direct, where the speaker speaks the same way it is portrayed, and indirect, where the speaker, whatever the speaker speaks, is portrayed by someone else. So while doing, narration is also a very good strategy of teaching English in class, and the very best way of going through narration is telling story. So storytelling in class is a very good process of going through narration process, where the teacher who is teaching, the teacher who is narrating the story in the class must be very skillful. The teacher must have all ideas of all the skill of language. The teacher must have ideas of the similes and the metaphors. These words I have used, people, similes and metaphors. In Hindi also, Hindi teachers also use these terms, as they call it alankar. And English teachers call it figure of speeches. Okay? So these, the teacher must be skilled with all these knowledges also. And the teacher must be skilled with familiar experiences with the students. When you, the teachers, will give these familiar, cooperate with these familiar experiences with their students, the student would understand in a better way. So narration process, narration strategy is also a very good strategy to teach English in the class. Description. Description is a very small thing but very fruitful and very having a great impact on students. But the teacher must be very accurate at that time, because you are describing one thing, one particular thing, like this ruler. If I am describing this ruler only to my students, I must tell them each and every particular of this ruler or this scale, what is this and how is this. So this is description is a process by which teacher can tell the students that what something is or how someone is. So this is the process by which we can teach our students exactly what the things are. Exposition. Exposition, like again I will go through that part when during pandemic we have made so many PPTs and we taught our students. In class also, in general class, offline classes also, whenever we enter our class and whenever we start some lesson, we must give our students some objective of that chapter. So this exposition part is the initial part of any chapter. When we start any chapter, when we start doing something in the class for the first time, those initial part of that chapter is coming under this exposition part. Under this exposition part, whatever objectives about the chapter later on we will give our students, this exposition part will engage our student to develop their thinking, that what is later on in this part. So after giving objective of the chapter, we may again engage our students asking some questions, some follow-up questions, that what did he understood, what did he understand about the chapter later on is coming. So this is also a very good process, very good strategy to engage our students with learning. Review, as in the title only, the term is hidden. Review means once again and again. So review is just coming after exposition part only. As I said, that exposition, under exposition coming the objective part and later on the chapter. So review means once we have done with the chapter, we again would go through the chapter, review, re-examine, recheck again, and then this way we will check the understanding of the students also. In Hindi also you call it samiksha. So in review, in English also we can do this, and under this review part coming all those recall or renewal or revise, what we do generally in our classes during this time as examination is at hand. We all are doing these things only in our classes. So this is the review part, and very important part for the students' betterment. Group discussion. Though means in outside also, other than school, colleges also, this is very important. In schools also, this is very important. In everyone, all the teachers, you must go through such activities in your classes also. Being an English teacher, I have gone through, and I prefer going through this process in my classes because it is a scope, this strategy, if I use this strategy in class, this is a scope where I engage some of the students in the class in some discussion. And this group discussion, when students engage themselves in this group discussion, this is open-ended. They are free to express their views, their ideas, and then they express their views and ideas to others also. Means if the whole class is not engaging in that act, some of the part of the class is engaging in that act, they would express their views and ideas to others also, and this way they would develop a kind of achievement in them. In group discussion, always there is a group leader. Okay? It should be the act of the teacher only who should engage one, who should make one group leader. In classes generally, when such kind of group discussions are done in classes, the teacher generally plays this role and then allows the students to express their views and ideas. And this way they engage, they think, they speak, and this way they develop a kind of self-confidence in themselves. So this process, group discussion, is also a very great step, good strategy to teach English in class. Any kind, these days, as students of class 12, they are, after this stage, they would enter the professional stage, and after entering this professional stage, when they would go for any interview, So they would go through this process also, the group discussion process, the personality development processes. Without this, they cannot go any further processes. So this group discussion is very important part of teaching learning if we start from the school level only. Role playing. Role playing, and after this slide only, dramatization. Both these slides or both these terms, role playing and dramatization, they are complementary to each other. Apart from few differences, they are almost same. Role playing means, as I am talking about the school children, so role play is a very good tool to teach our students the chapter in a very well manner. Like in English book, being an English teacher, I have used this technique also with my students. One chapter, one play was there. In English book, there was one play of class 11. I told them. In class 12 also, I have applied this interview chapter. Okay, that interview chapter, when we go through that chapter is only two persons communicating with each other. There is nothing so interesting in that chapter, isn't it? Interview, you must understand. There is nothing interesting. You cannot hold the attention of that student. What I thought, that why not to engage the student to play the role of these two characters. And in this way, what they did, that all the class made two pairs, and all the class indulged in this process of role playing. They became two characters from that chapter and they played that role in front of me. And this way, the fruitful result for the students came out to be as they learned the whole chapter. Only two characters were there in that chapter. There were so many dialogues. Okay, the role of the interviewer who did, he learned a little, but still he had to go through the whole chapter. And the interviewee, the role of the interviewee, the person the student did, he had to learn a lot. And this way, the students themselves told me that yes, it was a very fruitful process for them, that they had learned the whole chapter. It was an uninteresting chapter, but the children learned everything. And they told me that if questions come from that chapter, they would be able to answer them. So it is a very fruitful tool as I faced. And dramatization is also kind of role play, but in role play, a student or a group of students, they don't need any story, but they only need a situation. But in dramatization, one student or a group of students, they need a story. This is only the small difference between role playing and dramatization. Otherwise, both the things are very fruitful tool for students. Brainstorming. Brainstorming means this is a very good process. Just to give them on the spot, give the students some topics and then let them to ponder over that topic, provide them some time and then let them recite on that topic. So this is also a very good tool, this is also a very good strategy to bring students to develop their sense of humor, their presence of mind. As most of the students we can see in the classes that they fear to speak. So this brainstorming process can engage students in developing their sense of humor, their presence of mind. Give them simple topics, give them small topics, but allow them to speak. Whatsoever things are coming in their mind, they must ponder over that and they must speak them. So this way, they also shed their fear and they come out to be a brave student. This also I have used and I have got some fruitful results. Bus session. These topics are newly introduced to the field of education, where in the classroom students are students are split in small groups, and then separate groups are given separate topics, and then they are given some time, and after that they would be allowed to speak on those topics. So this way, brainstorming, bus session, these are more or less equal and they give the students chances to speak, to shed their fear of speaking, the terror of speaking, and speak something in the class among their friends. So this is also a very good strategy to teach English to develop their vocabulary, to develop their word power in class. Simulation. Simulation is completely a new word. I don't think, or I can think also that so many of you know this word simulation. And once this training session is over, we would do this simulation among ourselves, people, in practical way. So simulation is a way where in class, if I, being a teacher, if I use this process in class, so this is the process that I would give a real life situation to my student, and I would allow them to act on that situation. So that situation involves like this. An example I would give you, like I give my students a situation of a seller and a buyer. So if I give this situation to my students of seller and a buyer, in their mind the idea comes that the situation is of a marketplace, and they would, according to that, they would play those things, and they would understand the selling and buying process also. So this is a real life situation which should be given to the student, and how they are executing them. This is the process of simulation. One more process of simulation is that, like in a row I will let my students to stand, and then the last student who is standing, means back to back everyone is standing, the last who is standing, the teacher would tell him something and something to act, and then the teacher would allow that last student to just turn back the next student and act to that student the same the teacher told him, and he would do with the next student, and he would do the next student. And how language or word evolve last student, the first student who would play that role, that would come out to be a completely different thing. So it is very humorous. If we do it in a practical way, it would be so amusing for we teachers also, as I wish to do this once. Debate. Debate is a very good process. We can use this in class. We have already used this so many times in classes. The classes here also, students are given the privileges to choose their partners, their pairs, in groups also they can form, and this gives them the opportunity to speak either in favor or in against of the topic. So the teacher's act is there to either they can conduct spontaneous debate also, or they can conduct planned debate also. But it is fruitful that debate should be organized, planned. In that case, what would happen? That the students would plan, would create, would get their points, and they could bring a very good debate between the class. So this is also a very good tool, very good strategy, and students also develop their logical ideas, their leadership power, their logical thoughts they can bring into. Symposium, and after this is a seminar. So there is a little difference again between symposium and seminar. Symposium, in Hindi we call it sangoshti. You must have heard this word also, sangoshti. So if symposium is done in class, so their symposium involves with only 5, not more than 5 speakers, and must be one chairman, and rest of the persons must be the audiences. So symposium, in Symposium Act, all the speaking and all these speaking and asking questions, raising doubts, all these processes go on only between the speakers and the chairman. The chairman is only the responsible person to organize the symposium, and the audiences, they are only the listeners. They would only listen to the facts, and they would only be the listeners and audiences. So all the main thing depend upon the chairman and the speakers in symposium. Seminar is also a kind of such kind of an act which we can organize in classes. In seminars, the teachers have to give the papers, the written papers already to the students, and then the teacher would only assign one main person who would be the judge, and this way everything would be discussed, would be read, would be done among themselves. In the end of the seminar, the students or the audience, they would be allowed to raise their doubts. If they have any questions, they would allow. So this way, this is also a very good process to ponder over. After this, means art integration. Art integration is also this is also a very good tool to teach English, and this is an implementation of NEP also. And this by this we can see only some of the pictures are given. Go through these pictures, like these are the pictures. If going through any poem, any chapter, so the teacher must try to use these real life account of the writer or the poet, as this is one of the poems of class 12, My Mother at 66, and this is the poet's mother. The poem is based on completely the poet and the poet's mother only. So if the teacher would engage such kind of real life accounts or pictures among the students, it would be more fruitful for the students to understand and to indulge with the real life accounts of the poet and her family and her mental state. In the these are some of the pictures of Kamala Das, who is the poet of that poem, My Mother at 66. Some different postures, pictures here given. Some of the pictures like this line, these windows, their world. This is the exact line of the poem. So if such kind of this story, as this story also speaks about the slum dwellers in somewhere in Delhi, and this is the story, the part of the story. So if such kind of pictures are given to the students, in front of the students, they would understand the real life of those people, those slum dwellers who came in the from Bangladesh in 1972, and they just refused in a small area of Delhi. They became that slum, and they had so many dreams, but they were not fulfilled. So this was their life. If such kind of real life pictures would be presented among them, they would understand the realistic things. This is also the line, these children were skins peeped through by bones. Skins peeped through by bones. Bones चमड़े से झांक रही है, ये कहने का मतलब. So by these pictures we can show our students the better picture, the better scenario of those people, of those characters in the story or the poem. Keeping quiet, this is also a good tool. If we don't need to talk, if we don't want to talk, we just use our one finger and keep our finger on our lip. This is a sign. This is a language. We need not to tell our students that keep quiet. Just keep your finger on your lip, and it means that we are expecting our students to be calm. So these are some of the sign languages. Again, stop. If I use my hand this way only, that means stop. So I need not to speak. These can also be taken as tools, as strategies of teaching. This is a scene of drama, role play. We can do role play drama on stage. Another picture, caricatures. By making these mockery pictures, these cartoon pictures also, we can let our students to understand, to identify the characters. They would be able to identify them. They would develop this idea also to make caricatures. And these are some of the games also, some of the games by which also we can engage our students. We can teach them, we can tell them to develop their word stock. Because find the difference. They have to find the difference. They would use their brain. Brain teaser at the brainstorm topic also came earlier. This is also a part of that brainstorm or brain teaser. The students would use their brain to play this game, and it's an activity also. By these activities also we can engage, we can teach our students English language. And of course practical use of English that involves in storytelling also. So by storytelling also we can engage our students, and these are some of the games, the puzzle games. We can provide these activities to our students to engage them and to develop their vocabulary. Listening task. This is the last slide, people, and this is the listening task. I have used this strategy with my students few days back only. that I sent this, I played this audio in the class, and the students were listening to the audio, and after this there is one more slide, which is the question slide. So after listening to this audio 3 times, it is the rule that 3 times the audio should be played. The student would be so quiet at that time. This is the listening task. And it is said that a good listener can only be a good speaker. So that was the listening task. The student would be so calm, they would be listening to each and every word of that audio, and after that they would fulfill this chart, this question answer chart. So this I have